put a plan in motion. It starts with, a belief in yourself and know your own value. It will come back to you in a very positive way.
Welcome, everyone, to the Road Less Traveled Show. This is a show about people that were successful in a previous career and left that career to go down a different path. I'm your co-host, Richard Coyne.
And I'm your co-host, Bill Zahler.
On today's show, we have Nancy Wallace-Laabs. Nancy, we're so glad you joined us.
Well, thanks. And thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Nancy. Well, thank you again for being on the Road Less Traveled Show. To start with, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your background, what line of work you started in, and how long you were in that line of work?
Sure. So I was a blood bank management consultant, and so I actually worked for a blood bank. I finally made my way up to director of recruitment, and my primary goal and role was to make the blood banks are nonprofit, but they still have to make money. And so it's kind of, if you think of it like a sales job. So we were responsible for recruiting X number of blood donors every month. And, you were rated on that. We didn't get commissions like a normal sales job or anything, but we did have goals that we had to hit every month. And that was, back in the day when you had blood drives and that kind of thing. So, and I did that for about 10 years, give or take. What happened was I ended up getting recruited, like all companies back in the day, they used to hire consultants to come in to how can we be more efficient? And so I was actually recruited by the consulting company to come and work for them. And that gave me an opportunity. And I worked with blood banks all across the United States. I helped the Canadian Blood Services. I would travel from Toronto to Vancouver and in between, helping them consolidate their call center. My specialty was call center management, training the staff and that kind of thing. And then I was actually asked by the National Blood Services, I think it's called, in England. And I was able to go over there for a couple of weeks and work with their blood banking community. And I went to Liverpool and I can't even think. I did go to London, but there were some other little towns because that's usually where blood banks are. So
nice.
Oh, excellent.
I have a funny story about Liverpool. Can I tell it?
So actually, we'll come back to,
Okay. All right. Okay. Remind me of that one because it was pretty funny. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Well, and what path did you transition on now, Nancy?
So, I'm a real estate broker, real estate investor. What happened was I used to live in Phoenix, Arizona, and back in 2005 to 8, we had the huge market shift where real estate was just going crazy. And I was not in real estate. I'd always watched those shows about, how to flip houses and everything. And literally what happened, houses in our neighborhood, we had lived in our home for about 8 years. We were looking to buy another home. And we were like, oh my gosh, we can't afford what we already have because these house prices have just skyrocketed. So we started going to a couple of open houses. And my husband and I, we just looked at each other and we said, you know what? We got into real estate because we had greed. We literally put our house on the market, quit our jobs, and moved to Texas. And that's how we started our real estate investing career because it was such a good opportunity. And it was scary, we knew we were smart and that we could get jobs anywhere. So worst case scenario, we'd go and flip hamburgers if we had to, but that didn't happen. So then I was able to start my real estate journey. And I took a job that I paid peanuts as a property manager because my first rental, the first property I bought was a rental. And I really wanted to learn more about being a property manager. And I kind of created a job for myself for a well-known broker. And I was a property manager for well over a decade here in North Texas. And I did single family homes. I'm one of the very few brokers in Texas that was actually certified by the Texas Real Estate Commission to teach other property managers how to manage properties. So I made a career out of that. And then since then, I left my property management, and now I'm just a full-time investor, a coach. I just launched our real estate community, which, is kind of a platform where people can just come and present deals. ask questions, education, and that kind of thing. So pretty excited. So yes, I kind of just did a full circle and I love it.
That's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, time for the funny story about Liverpool. Tell us.
Okay, so I was not a very well-traveled person when I took this job. I mean, I've been a few places, but I'd never really been out of the country or anything. And Liverpool, home of the Beatles, and I'm a little bit young for the Beatles, but I'm like, oh, that's where the Beatles came and everything. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I have to go to a pub. Now, let me just preface this by saying when I went to England, I went by myself. I mean, I told my husband about it and we just thought it was such a great opportunity. So I did not go with the rest of the team was there, but we were all in different parts of the country. So I was literally traveling London. I think we all met up in London, but then I was going to these other places by myself. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to go down and I'm going to have a beer at the pub. That was my, thinking I was doing that. So it was a Sunday afternoon. I'm strolling along and it's very safe area. And I go walking into this pub and it's just like in the movies, like some Western or whatever, everybody just stops talking and they just turn around. And it was all, I don't know if it was a men's soccer or what. Yeah, there were no females in the bar. So I was just like, and I'm sure I looked like, some tourist from Kansas or something. And so I just turned around and walked out. So I was like, okay, maybe not. But I had never had that happen to me before. I just thought that was kind of funny that I thought, oh, I'm just going to go in there and have a beer. And, I wasn't brave enough to belly up to the bar with the guys. So
that was funny. Yeah.
A pint over there. Yeah. Oh, that's excellent. Well, can you tell us a little bit about what was a kind of a deciding factor for you, Nancy, in leaving where you were and moved up the ranks in the blood bank, and as you got more responsibility there to kind of pivot into the real estate? Was it kind of what you saw like in Phoenix, kind of the top of the market, and you guys were able to? What kind of opportunities were available there? Or?
Well, when we sold our house in Phoenix, it was the first time. I mean, that was the first time in my entire life I didn't have to like run out and get a job, right? We moved into a bigger house just because we could. So what it did is it kind of opened our eyes up to opportunities that normally people would be too, because one of the things people always say to us is like, oh my gosh, you're so brave, or, wasn't that scary? And yes, just think about that. We put our house on the market in Phoenix, and within 3 weeks, quit our jobs and moved to Texas. And we, took our 12-year-old out of school at the time. So it was very fast and it was so emotionally charged. I don't even think we thought about it until we got to to Dallas. But it was a time of reflection because I think people are afraid to start new things because just of the fear. We could have been fearful, like, oh, are we going to be able to afford it? Are we going to be what if this all comes crashing down on us? What if? So I think both of us realized that we had transferable skills. We were in management. We had worked all of our lives. So we have a good work ethic. I mean, I think I used to pick corn, when I was a kid. So I think we had faith in ourselves that it would work out. I'm kind of a big believer in that. Now, since then, what I have realized is that, if you're willing to take the risk and kind of believe in yourself, and sometimes it's hard to believe in yourself. I mean, my husband is very supportive. Not everybody has that, but there's all kinds of communities and networking that you can do to get the support to make the changes. And you don't have to make a big change like I did, right? You can start small, but a lot of the people that come to me for coaching and consulting about how to be in real estate, the biggest thing that's stopping them is not about they don't have enough money, they're not smart enough. It's the fear. That's that pit feeling. And when I bought my first property, my first rental property, I mean, that pit was there. I mean, but we just pushed through it and we just said, okay, we just said, because if you want a better life, you kind of have to push through those feelings, right? You have to, we work for everything. So then I'm just kind of the person, like I never want to stop learning. I'm very excited about being in real estate and I love it because it taxes my brain about being so creative, like, helping sellers out of distressed situations or, coming up with creative solutions like for financing real estate property. So that just kind of fed into my personality, if you will.
Right. Well, excellent. Yeah.
Nice. Well, good. So Nancy, you talked about some of the obstacles you had to kind of overcome as you moved to Texas with the family, the fear of the first deal, kind of really trying to get into the mix, getting paid a pittance as you were starting down the property manager path and whatnot. So I don't know if there's anything there that would be an additional obstacle you want to talk about, or maybe it's as you've kind of really started shifting more to what you're doing now, your online community, your coaching. Is there any obstacles there that you can, maybe?
Yes.
mention?
I mean, I think, there's a lot of real estate gurus out there. So I try to, first of all, give lots and lots of value. I'm not going to push something on somebody. You really have to want to come, and I work with people who trust me. So I think some of the obstacles are really not from people that I work with. I'm very passionate about real estate investing, and I think that always comes out when I speak or whatever. But it's the naysayers that want to tell you that you can't do it, right? That what are you doing? So and I think this goes with as you're trying to break out of your mold. So I'm just going to give you an example of the property management. So I had a struggle getting accepted into property management because I didn't have real estate experience. So, so what I did is to the person that I ended up having a partnership with, I said, look, I have all these other skills that I've done. I mean, I'm organized, I communicate fairly well. And I said to her, I was like, okay, well, I tell you what, why don't you just give me 30 days? You don't have to pay me anything. And if you don't like what I did, then, no, nothing ventured, nothing gained kind of thing. So that's kind of my approach. Like, just try. Don't just give up. The one obstacle that sometimes everyone has is just getting people to believe in you. And so what steps do you take? So, being on podcasts, that's why I wrote the book, Winning Deals and Heels, because, there's a lot of successful real estate women out there. But when you go to conferences, there's not very many of us speaking on the stages. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's more of about awareness and not to get beaten down when you have naysayers. And I've had plenty of naysayers, you just kind of have to go. And I've made plenty of mistakes, both financially and with partnerships. So, thankfully, none of them were like totally devastating. So just to share with your viewers, the property management, partnership I had was all great, was done on a handshake, and my partner unexpectedly died. Oh, yeah. So you know what? Now I am a huge proponent of putting everything in writing. And we had always talked about it, but we just never got around to it. And, we did everything word of mouth. We both trusted each other. So, so now when I actually teach them on, joint venture agreements, because I learned, hey, that probably wasn't a smart decision on my part not to have anything, now that's been several years ago, but it kind of took me for a loop, and other things that have happened, like contractors, I've had a couple contractors that, I use them for properties and projects, and then that all of a sudden they go AWOL. I had a one contractor that, he just didn't do his job. And when I fired him, he turned around and put a lien on a property, and so then it cost me money to get the lien off when it didn't cost, it cost him like $40 and he didn't even have to go to the courthouse. So, just those kinds of struggles. And if those things happen day to day, so you just can't let them defeat you.
Mm-hmm. I think it's absolutely right about the, starting on the naysayers. I mean, a lot of that, people get comfortable in a certain group, right? And then if you start to grow, it's going to make some of the people in the group uncomfortable. I think the Australians have like the tall poppy syndrome, that you always get cut back down to be, back to their group kind of thing. But there's a lot of truth to that. I think, as you continue to advance, it's going to differentiate yourself. And in my office, the plaque on the wall I have is Teddy Roosevelt's "Man in the Arena." It's the person who's actually out there doing something. If you never want to make a mistake, don't do anything. I mean, that's the only way you're going to guarantee you don't make. That's how you learn. That's how you grow, and that's the only
exactly. Yeah. And actually, I don't mind making, and I share my mistakes. Like when I've partnered and found out that maybe the partnership wasn't as good as I thought, because sometimes when you're friends with people, it's not always good to be partners. And, I see a lot of people, hook up, be partners. And so one of my situations was I had a partner, and they just had a different view of how a property should be, rehabbed. And I mean, it wasn't a huge rehab, but when we closed, I had to bring like, I don't know, 2,500, 3,000 to the closing table. And the title company goes, well, why aren't you smiling today? And I'm like, well, because I'm bringing money to the deal. Now, and I've met other people who have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, you do, so mine was just small. But I think too, when I do a lot of due diligence, right? And I try to minimize risk. I mean, real estate is risky business, right? And so I try to, and really anything I did, I mean, even the book writing is kind of a risk. You don't know if it's going to be, in fact, I was looking at the Google reviews. So if anybody buys the book, Winning Deals in Hills, somebody bought the book and, there's not like a ton of reviews. I think it was like 3, 4, 5, it's very small, but one person gave me a 3. And I'm like, what do you mean a 3? Wait, go out there, somebody, so we kind of get hung up on that one, that one person when, the book is like sold and, it's an inspiration to other women. And so those are the things that I try to focus on. But, that when I saw that one review, I was like, what? Who is this person?
Yeah.
And typically it's somebody that's not doing anything themselves, right? They're just a professional critic on those things, trying to bring somebody else down on that. And
Exactly.
It's all poppy syndrome that back of the line.
Hey, one comment just to go back to the legal side for a moment. It is advisable to really think things through and make sure you get some legal guidance early on, whether it be partnership or whether it be your own personal situation in terms of like even your estate planning. Definitely the time to think about those things is now before you get into a bad situation. And, best intentions of two people decide the partnership, join, work together in a partnership, everything's all rosy and happy at that beginning. And then, life happens, a wrinkle will happen. So it's best to have thought about how to address those things early rather than after the fact.
Agree more.
Yeah.
And the other thing that people kind of forget about in partnerships, and I actually teach about this, is personalities. So I happen to have kind of a pretty bold, can be very direct personality. And if I am partnering with somebody that's, a little bit more laid back, reserved, maybe they don't speak their mind like I do, that can cause huge issues in a partnership. That's not really anything you put on writing, but you have to be able to address every nuance of, getting along, how you're going to resolve issues. So I always talk to people about, worst case, like, now that I know, hey, if your partner dies, and the other thing I don't really prescribe to is having a 50-50 JV agreement, because what if you need to break a tie? You know what I mean? Like there's always that, you just need to have those safety. I mean, it's all good. We might think, oh yes, we're all going to get along. But like you said, there's, could be a wrinkle. Something just happens. Life happens and gets in the way. So.
Yeah, we put in the rock, paper, scissors clause on ours to break any ties. So we've covered that. I
think we thought ahead.
Take them out to the back.
The advice on legal counsel said, "Yep, that clause is in there." Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, Nancy, what was as you look back, can you think back to like your first victory was that you really were glad you'd made the shift and you'd gone down the real estate path?
Well, I think the biggest one that I can kind of attribute to where I'm at today is that, making the decision that we were going to sell our home, move away, and just, make this leap into the unknown, literally, right? And then since then, what I also really focus on is giving back. In real estate investing, you're only as good as your last deal. That's really true. But whatever I do, I try to have purpose with it, because that makes me feel, I don't know, it adds an element to my real estate investing. So for example, when I work with sellers, I typically, even though I'm a real estate broker, I don't do traditional real estate. I'm not a buyer's agent, listing agent. But I work almost primarily with distressed sellers. They're in some kind of life-changing, somebody's died, somebody got sick. So I think the compassion that I bring, what I do with that, yes, I'm making money, but I'm turning that problem property that had been in somebody's family for years and years and years. They made memories. And so we turn it into something for memories for the next person. And that's kind of how we sell it to the sellers. When you've got multiple sellers or investors, trying to buy this one property. So we kind of bring the story of the sellers, what they experienced in the home and the memories they made. And then we typically, if we're flipping a house, we will typically leave something, like it might be the coach lights out front or, a funky mailbox that we repaint or something, so that there's like this essence of the prior sellers, but then memories are made for the next buyer. I love owner financing. I think, a lot of our ills of the world, if you will, if people just had a safe place to lay their head down at night, how can you, really solve things if people, a lot of homelessness, a lot of unaffordable housing. So I like owner financing so that, I like to purchase the home with my private money lenders and then, provide some buyers that, can't go the traditional route. You guys know that. There's a lot of people out there that have money. They just can't get a loan.
Sure.
So that kind of gives me satisfaction of giving back, making the communities better. The books I write, part of the proceeds are all donated to a nonprofit. So I just try to bring that kind of sense and balance to what I love doing.
That's great. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. So Nancy, is there perhaps in your real estate world or your coaching side of things now, is there a funny story you can share? Something that's give our listeners something to laugh about?
Well, let me see. Let me think.
Is there a Liverpool, Texas, maybe?
I think probably the funny stories are about people, they're actually starting to believe in themselves. So I got some notes here. Let me make sure I've got.
So you feel free to change.
I think, when I wrote the book, when I actually, that's kind of a funny story in itself. So when I have always wanted to write a book. That was just a childhood dream of mine. So my book, The Winning Deals and Heels, actually started out about the differences between men and women in real estate investing, because there are some, but then I thought, that's probably like too political or whatever. So what we ended up doing is we got this group of gals and we all, once the book was done, there's like 10 of us in the book, we launched part of the proceeds of this book go to Hope Store, which is located in Plano, Texas. And it's a nonprofit that helps families heal from domestic violence. So we all got together and they were having a grand opening of one of their resale stores. So we all got there and took a lot of pictures, and not so much funny, but fun, because we were all come together with the same goal of helping our community. I could tell you that I fell down or I've stammered or something like that. But, I do have a funny story about contractors that,
sure.
Has gotten a lot of traction. So we have I do a lot of teaching on self-directed IRAs, right? So the company that we had there, they have a contest every year about scary houses or something like that. So we had bought a property and we were going to use it as an Airbnb, and it was a total gut job. So typically the contractor that I had used, I've been using him for years and years, never had any issue. It's about an hour outside of Dallas. And so I thought, he offered to just go there and, work for several weeks. And we're like, great, we trusted him. So part of my deal with him is I would buy the supplies, at Home Depot. He'd give me the list and then he'd go and pick them up. So one of the items that he ordered was 48 tubes of caulk, right? Now, there were 2 bathrooms, there's some new windows, there's some, I guess a lot of caulking had to be done. So we're looking at, when we went and checked on him, we never could really tell what was going on because there was all this plastic everywhere. We're like, okay. But again, we had no reason to doubt that he wasn't doing his job. Big mistake. So when the plastic came down, there was no caulk around the bathtubs. And I'm like, where is the 48 tubes of caulk, that you requested? We found them empty in the trash can, and by this time he's gone, he's skipped out on us or whatever. So we're outside and we have this gigantic patio door, sliding glass door that we installed. And I'm looking at it with my husband and I'm like, does that seem a little crooked to you? Little slight. And so it turns out he had nailed a couple of nails of the patio door, maybe on like the right hand side, but on starting at the top, middle, all the way down the left side was caulk. And so the door was and these weigh like, I don't know, 500 pounds, 400 pounds, was sliding out. So I took pictures. Yeah. So we had to hire somebody else. So I took pictures of this, and so I presented this, scary, because it was scary contractor stuff that happens. It's a real
Yeah.
story. And I won because of that, caulking incident. So, but yeah, it wasn't funny at the time, but it's funny now. So
Wow.
Every good contractor knows you need at least 75 tubes, not 40.
I know, right? You wouldn't believe
Do that
it.
right.
Just on and on and on. So that's kind of like a sad, kind of funny story or whatever. And I will tell you one more little story. So the winning deals and heels, I have to say, so we were like struggling, like what's the name of the book? It's going to be women or whatever. And it was actually my son-in-law, who is a military Marine guy, came up with that name of that book. So
Nice.
It's a
thank
good
you,
name.
Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
Excellent. Well, Nancy, where are you today in your journey and your new career path?
Oh my gosh. So we're still buying properties. I've been doing a lot with short-term rentals the last couple of years. Been teaching people about it. So we launched our short-term rental business. Now we can kind of see a shift. I think one of the things I'm really good at is kind of reading the market and taking advantage of whatever's happening in the market. So we're literally now kind of shifting because a couple of our short-term rentals are not performing, with the economy, people are going back to work. So there's not that fluidness that was happening. So we're getting ready to turn a couple of them back into long-term rentals, where before I was able to take long-term rentals and turn them into short-term rentals. So we're getting ready to gear up about landlording. So I do a lot of teaching people of how to use your self-directed IRA to buy real estate or become a private money lender. In fact, I'm running a free challenge next week for anybody who wants to sign up for that. We decided to launch the real estate community, where there would be like a place where people could come, like I was saying, like network. But a lot of people, it's hard to come up with like, well, let's do Mondays at 6:00 or Tuesdays at 2 p.m. or whatever. So this is going to be an online community where if you can't make it, you can still see the recording. It's going to be interactive. People can provide deals. I have a good private money network. So it's where people can come together that has money, that wants to do deals, and kind of hook people up that way. And then I'm working towards, when I do a lot of coaching and consulting, speaking, one of the goals in 2023 is to get on stage at conferences. So if you know anybody that might be interested, so that's kind of what I focus on right now is the short-term rental. What are you going to do with your businesses? Investing with your self-directed IRA to grow that account, a lot of times tax-free. And then now shifting over to more recession-proof tools for investing, such as owner financing, landlording, that kind of thing. So,
Oh yeah, well, excellent.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, one of our questions we always ask people is what do you do to give back? And it sounds like you do a lot. Certainly, we know that unfortunately there's a huge shortage of financial education and financial knowledge in this country. People just don't know how to manage their money, and unfortunately that goes back to it starts at home. And well, were your parents good teachers about that? No.
And I will say, yeah, my parents, they did, if I knew because I started kind of late, if I knew in my 20s what I knew today, dang, right? So I started late, right? And that's okay, because I think real estate investing is very forgivable. It doesn't matter how old or young or how educated or not. I mean, it's something that everyone can learn. I think a lot of women want to get into it as their children are leaving the home. Maybe they got a divorce. Maybe their, spouse died or whatever, but they don't feel like they have a safety net. They don't feel, supported. And so that's kind of, the real estate community is for men and women or, anyone. And I really am just so passionate about giving people value, right? Because, I did have a good mentor when I started out. I've paid for some good mentors and I've paid for some not so good mentors.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
I think if you want to get to the next level, you've got to kind of invest in yourself. So that's how I look at it, is I'm investing in myself to get
Right.
more where I want to be. So
Right.
Yeah.
One thing that also fascinates me is that there are a lot of people that say, "Hey, I want to be a real estate broker or a real estate agent." Okay, great.
Mhm.
Go out, get your license, and you start doing that. And whether male or female, it doesn't matter. But the point of it is that there are a lot of people that become agents that really don't invest. And
Right.
that, to me, is shocking. When you see an opportunity to buy a house or a whatever for X dollars, and then you fix it up, and then you can sell for this much more. Wow, wouldn't
Mhm.
that be a good opportunity? Of course, you're trying to represent your clients as an agent, but at the same point in time, ding, 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 light bulb. Look at some of these
Right.
for yourself, and do some of this for yourself, and it's not that hard. It is.
And it's really not, but it does take some time.
Mhm.
You got to kind of slow down. But one of the things that I talk to people about is don't try to learn, 50 different strategies. Pick
Mhm.
the strategy that's going to work for you, you know, work it, become an expert in it, and then move on. I didn't
Right.
become an expert in all these other areas overnight. It took, it was a gradual, oh, okay. And it was other people that got me there too. So
Yeah.
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 Yep. Like I say, like we talk about all the time that, you have to, like you said, focus on one thing. And a lot of times in real estate, there's so many facets of, you can do notes, fix and flip, short-term rentals, syndication, storage, offices. There's a million things, and every speaker that comes in sounds interesting because they're excited and passionate about what they're teaching. But then people, if they get, too, I guess, scattered on that, every month they try some new thing, they never get any depth or expertise in
and
that.
I think that a lot of people, especially the ones that come to me, because I won't teach them 50 million things. I'm like, okay, you're on, it's really accountability. I need to know how much time you're gonna, give me, whether it's 15 minutes a day or a week. And then you can set them up for success. If I
Mhm.
tried to give you, 30 things to do in a week, you're not going to do it. And I think number one, people have to know, do they have a deal? So a lot of people don't teach. I mean, they teach somewhat on deal analysis, but not really what you need to know.
Yeah.
How do you monetize leads? How do you, and I always look for at least two exit strategies on a property. So I think people have to understand that you have to, first of all, be able to find a deal, which is the number one question. Like, where do you find the deals, right?
Mhm.
Join my real estate community, then you'll know.
There you go.
I do some marketing, but probably 90% of my deals come from referrals because, everybody knows that's what I do. And,
Right.
I'm able to solve problems. So,
Absolutely. Well, is there something you've recently implemented, Nancy, that's helped you scale and achieve your goals?
yes, hiring virtual assistants. So I am kind of like a one woman show. I don't sponsor agents. I, used to, but I was like, no. And I like to do my own thing. So I love hiring virtual assistants because you can hire great virtual assistants to help you expand. And I don't just have one, I have multiple ones that do different things for me, right?
Mhm.
They all have their different skill sets. So I actually have an online course about how to hire a virtual assistant because people don't do that because they don't even know how to go about interviewing them or, where do you look? How do you write a job aid? How do you write the job description? Because I could say, oh, hire a virtual assistant, but what are you going to have them do? Right. And a lot of people don't take the time to write out the job description or the tasks that need to be done. And then and that's what I do. I go, and that was kind of my expertise with blood banking management. I did all the job descriptions and the
Okay.
task and how to break it down and, how to develop KPIs. So I have taken that knowledge then and say, okay, this is how you go find the person to do ABC, whether it's marketing. I've had them do cold calling. The only thing, the most of them are in the Philippines, so obviously they're not going to be mailing stuff. But there's so much that they can do for you that
Mhm.
frees up the time that, then you have time to do like your show. So
Yeah, there you go.
Well, excellent.
Nice.
No, that's a great advice on that because either At some point, we always talk about, in the beginning, you want to know all aspects of your business to know how it should be running. But at some point, you have to remove yourself to do the growth side of it versus just the back end work that
Yes.
has to get done. You get trapped in your business, not working on your business.
Well, and you can't, even I can recognize that I can do a lot of things, but I can't do all things well. So like marketing, I need help with. Facebook ads is told, anything that talks about algorithms and things like that, you know what I mean? It's like, no. I mean, and I don't want to have to know the techie stuff. I want to know that it's supposed to work, and I will diagram it out, old school. And then I'll just scan that and okay, this is how I want it.
Nice.
Excellent.
Well, good. So Nancy, what advice would you share with somebody that's looking to or considering making a path change?
Well, first of all, believe in yourself. If you are working a job where you're not appreciated, you're not fulfilling your dreams. Now, I'm not telling anybody to just go out there, quit their jobs, but put a plan in motion that you can, like if you're going to Starbucks every day and getting that latte, but you might want to think about saving your money so that you could leave your job, or you could start investing in real estate. So I think it starts with, a belief in yourself, getting a support group, either in, if it's not your partner or your family. Like I would say that besides my husband, my support is the group that I kind of met through the years of like-minded people that want to, do better, be better, have the ability to give back, and know your own value. So a funny story, just to kind of top it off. So in the blood banking world, I was the top, I was the expert, I was the person to call. I've been in transfusion medicine. I was the person if you wanted. So when and I would come back to the one that hired me originally. And so I was the director. And again, I told you about the numbers and things like that. I debated whether I was going to tell the story, but I thought, well, it's kind of funny. And so, I was there for like 3 months. Numbers weren't having it. And so the higher ups, they decided that it was me on the problem, because that's how it goes, right? There's always a scapegoat. But rather than firing me right away, so they wanted to fire me. But what they did is they removed me. They walked me out. I think I had a couple of days off. And so I came back. And they literally were walking me out of my office, and they put me down into the they called it telerecruitment. It's like going to the basement, I was, and so I was like, okay, so they basically told me to just sit there, for the next 30 days. And then my contract was over. Well, that's not how Nancy rolled. And so I just started doing what I do, working with the staff, talking to them about this. And I started motivating them. Well, they ended up in that 30 days, they ended up exceeding like 900% their goals. So then the higher ups came back down to me, and rather than firing me, they wanted me to stay. And I said to them, here's my terms for staying. And so I got more money. I got bridge on my vacation, blah, 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 because I knew my worth. And I never once ever badmouthed the situation. I just kind of, just took my chops because I knew how it goes. And after this month of the great performance of the group and the team, I had people coming going, oh my gosh, we thought you were, because all these negative naysayers had been blaming me for the demise of, not meeting goals and things like that, when it turns out that it really wasn't me.
Right.
So that was kind of a good story. So I guess, in telling people, like I didn't know all the answers at the time, but I did have belief that I knew. And, when you have naysayers, it's hard. It hurts your feelings, and, but you just have to you always have to be the bigger person, and it will come back to you in a very positive light.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Nancy, what's the best way for our listeners to reach out and learn more about what you're doing, and also learn more about your book?
So they can buy the book on Amazon, Winning Deals in Heels. I can be reached at my email address, Nancy at K as in kite, B as in boy, N as in Nancy, Homes, HOMES.com. And then you can also go to my website, which is www.NancyWallace-Laabs. It's a mouthful.com.
We'll put links in the show notes there to help with that as well.
And also, yes, and on my YouTube channel, I am trying to grow my followers there, but I have put out quite a few videos about, like a short-term rental right now. I'm getting ready to release things about the JV and private money and that kind of thing. And so if they follow me on the YouTube, they'll get the latest and greatest. So.
Okay, nice. Great. Well, excellent. Well, thank you very much for those leads on that. And we want to thank you for being on the Road Less Traveled show. Really enjoyed the conversation today and wish you continued success.
Well, thank you. And thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And we also have an award to give out. So Nancy, you are the person that has told the most funny stories in one episode. So there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. Thank you for keeping it entertaining. So excellent. We'd also like to thank our listeners. Please continue to give us a 5-star rating so we can bring you more great content like Nancy Wallace-Laabs today, our guest. And we also want to remind everybody a couple things that Park Capital Partners has going. First of all, we have the Park Capital Partners Value Add Fund, which is a 506c fund open today to accredited investors. And we also have the Park Capital Partners Foundation, that is a 501c nonprofit that Bill and I created last year. And that does a couple things. First of all, Bill and I fund the operations of the foundation. So all the money donated goes to do its best work, which is to help others. Second, we donate corporately, we donate personally. And finally, when investors invest with us in one of our projects, we make a donation to honor that investor and they can pick where that money goes to from a pre-selected list of 15 different charities. We have lots of things that people care about in that list, and we certainly welcome you to join us anytime. We're happy to speak with you. Please reach out to us at parkcapitalpartnersllc.com. And thank you for joining, everyone. And remember, folks, the road less traveled may be calling you. We recommend that you listen and take action. Thanks for joining.